Welcome to another episode of Due Diligence. And we're back here live from North Atlanta. Myself, real estate expert Jason Wieloch, and Lee Taylor of the Wieloch Group at Compass. Lee Taylor, my masked colleague on this July 1st of 2020.
Jason, isn't my mask adorable?
It really accentuates your best features,
That's right.
which
That's
is
right. That's what I'm trying to do.
I'm seeing less of you.
Hopefully it makes my voice more resonant, dulcet, and lilting.
I can still hear you loud and clear, and I find your preventative measures to be commendable, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we've had an exciting few months on Due Diligence because we have interviewed a lot of great people. Sometimes we've gone outside the realm of real estate, but we've had really a historic time in our nation's and really our lives' history.
World, the globe.
And we felt the need to really touch on it because it does affect real estate ultimately at the end of the day. And we are here every week, folks, doing just that, helping you understand the market here in Atlanta and nationally, home buying and selling tips, and all of the things that you would need to be the most empowered buyer and seller in Atlanta real estate.
I have a question for you.
Ask away.
Are the Braves empowered are they playing?
Well,
the Atlanta Braves, y'all. Jason's got a hat on that says, "Hey."
Well, folks, that's actually a good topic because we will be talking about the second quarter in Atlanta real estate today. But just as important is the finally announced Major League Baseball season. You see my hat on today, Lee.
I see that. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm asking.
July 23rd or 24th, the Braves will launch a 60-game regular season, and it's going to be a sprint to the finish line. It may be the most exciting baseball season ever played because they're going to do 40 games against the National League East and 20 against the American League East, which means they won't play any games against the NL Central or the West. I saw these rules the other day, and they've done all kinds of other crazy stuff. Like if it goes extra innings, everybody starts with a runner on second base.
Really?
At the next at bat. And if you bring in a relief pitcher, they have to face 3 batters. You can't do that whole get one guy out, go to the bullpen again. They're trying to speed up the game.
Sure, they have to. It's smart.
And finally, for the first time ever, the National League will have designated hitters.
Whoa.
So I'm glad you brought this up.
That's powerful. It means that, you can think about change. How many years have they been talking about this for the National League to have designated hitters and the next step? Exactly. And this coronavirus thing has sped up so much progress on so many different levels. And that's just one example, Jason.
It might be the most progressive virus ever.
That's one way to look at it. Well, let's hope that the spread, and Jason, you've got a lot of statistics about the spread of the virus that have been very, very smart and well-researched from doctors and folks that are epidemiologists and looking at this. And I still think that we still have a problem. It's pervasive. I'm going to Florida tomorrow morning. My family just arrived down there. It's not looking so good when you read the greater stats.
Well, and I think that is something to pay attention to if you're in the real estate market or for us paying attention to the housing market.
And let's remind people again, Atlanta doesn't have many
I completely lost my colleague, Lee Taylor.
I told you what happened. Yep. Why don't we just do it without? You can't do it without me now, can you?
Folks, we had a little technical difficulty, and Lee is back because his MacBook was not charged up. But here he is. And
right. Let's do it.
We were talking about COVID statistics. And yeah, I think that we've got to be measured about it. I think at the end of the day, to be extreme and say this is a hoax, there's nothing to it, is a mistake. It's also a mistake to say that you got to run for the hills.
Right,
okay.
Right.
So I think that without diving into it today, we're monitoring it and trying to be informed, if anything, to help advise our clients.
I'm still showing houses with a mask on. Right. I was showing them with gloves on, and nobody's doing that anymore. The glove thing seems to be stopped.
Yeah.
Around here, at least.
And this kind of segues us into our second quarter of real estate here in Atlanta, which is what we're going to update all of y'all on today. And it was obviously not a quarter we were expecting to review in the manner in which we are doing it at the end of the first quarter, because the world was just turning on its head in the last 2 weeks of Q1. And here we are and we're going to be talking about what I consider to be pretty surprising results.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you would agree based on
Yeah.
what we were fearful of occurring
Mm-hmm.
in mid-March. I particularly felt that the market would slow much more dramatically than it has. I thought we would almost shut down per se
Mm-hmm.
for a period of time. I don't know what you feel about that. Numbers aside, it felt to me like there was a little bit of a pause right when things happened around the
Mm-hmm.
15th of March. But then in 2 to 3 weeks in, we were already kind of
It's certainly see that in Atlanta or
revving
other
up.
cities. But what I looked at, Mike Delpreet.
Oh, yeah, he does great stats.
So he's got a new real estate market tracker. If you go to Mike, what is it? Del P, I think it's at delp.com, I think is what it is. But look up Mike Delpreet, Delprete. He has a new real estate market tracker. You can plug in your city. You can plug in Philadelphia. You can plug in Seattle. You can plug in all these cities, and then you can run the bar. And he's got a stat from he has a new active listings tracker since coronavirus hit. And it shows how basically most markets went down like in a 25-day period, about 70% to the lowest. So we're still listing property at a level that was 30% less than last year at the
Right.
worst. So that's a reminder, Jason, that no matter what the worst of the worst market is, there's always a role for a realtor and a real estate agent. And we've seen that time and time again. This is particularly bad. That's a spring market number that went down at the end of April of all months. That was the worst month of the year relative to any year we've seen probably in decades.
Yes, and Atlanta was very resilient compared to many other markets.
Yep.
We weren't hit as hard with the pandemic as some other major cities. We also had a more flexible governor. And overall, when you looked at the second quarter for the year over year, probably around a 25 to 30% or so less in transaction count, right?
Yeah.
However, prices were up.
No kidding.
8 to 9% in that time because of the inventory squeeze. It's starting to feel like a couple years ago.
Low rates.
Low inventory. I think inventory drove it the most, though, because there's not a lot to pick from. And that bell curve was sort of in a down, it looked like a inverted bell curve, right?
Yeah.
Kind of went down and up. It looked just like the one in China when home sales went down big time activity, and then it just went right back up.
I looked at, here's what it looked at. That's a big number, like the big number looked like that. That's what I've seen.
Yeah.
But I looked at like.
That was nationwide.
Chicago did this. The worst I saw was Chicago. Of all the cities I looked at, Chicago seemed to have the biggest dip in inventory.
Really?
I'm guessing that might be their condo market. It's a high density condo market. But I didn't look at New York.
I would think.
Let's throw the white out. It's like Hong Kong.
It was a similar looking graph, I think, city by city.
Here's what Atlanta did. If Chicago did this, boom, 70%. Atlanta did this.
Well,
and then it went back up, and then it came back down. It was really kind of funny.
So, folks, if you're listening in audio land, just imagine. Just imagine Lee like swimming along like a little fishy with like that motion right there.
Butterfly stroke.
So then we have these other statistics that come out, and it was the second week of June. Georgia MLS announced that they had their largest week of pending sales ever. So we layered this 25+% drop in transactions quarter wide. But then when you took this sample towards the end of the second quarter, it was ridiculous amount of pendings.
Yeah.
And a lot of that activity came sort of in mid to late May into the first part of June. People were out in force. I think folks that were really committed to moving in that first part of the year, meaning they weren't going to be in a position to wait till fall or next spring. I think a lot of those people got their monkey off their back as soon as things loosened up. What say you?
Right. I'll say this is a good example I share with a guy. I'm trying to get a price reduction on a condominium listing. My client knows this. He wouldn't mind if I mentioned it because it's a real struggle when you're a seller and you expect a certain amount from the most recent sale in the building. And it's a sexy building that people do buy in frequently every year. And it's for tribute lofts.
Sexy people like you, of course.
Yeah, of course. And then did you see me do that? Yeah, and then
so did everybody else.
Yeah, I know. That's the internet. So the next thing was I mentioned to him that I listed in the spring 4 other properties. One of them did not require a price drop. 3 of them required a price drop. They're either under contract or sold, and his did not drop in price, and it's been on the market 70 days. And he's refused to basically, take the look at the hard look at the price, because he believes that he's as good as the last sale on his wing of the building. And what struggle is certain elements of his product is just not moving right now. And I think that's the big lesson, is what I said. 1 out of those 4 stood and sold within days. The other 3 required price drops. And I do think it's a big piece of the market. 50% of the market at least is needing price drops, but in many given markets, about 25 to 50% in any given neighborhood, price drops have to happen.
Well, and we're seeing just what we saw before COVID, which is there's a lot of people who do overvalue their homes. We're seeing a lot of overpriced property. I think people on the selling side who are choosing to list are very keenly aware of the lack of supply. They're keenly aware of the low interest rates, and so they're getting very aggressive. I went and saw with a couple of my friends, Cameron and Carrie, a number of homes in Buckhead this morning, and I was surprised at some of the prices of stuff that really needed a bunch of cosmetics. And
you're in the 600, 700?
No, we're talking 1.3 to 1.5.
Okay.
1.3 to 1.5 million. And I think just folks are very bullish on the selling side.
They are.
And they're seeing these stats. And yes, you should be bullish, but don't be foolish.
Well, that's right. Well,
You like that?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Don't be bullish. No, say that again.
Don't
be foolish.
Don't be foolish.
No, what'd you say?
Oh, what did I say? You can be bullish, but don't be foolish.
That's it.
There we go.
You can be bullish, but don't be foolish.
I don't think I want to tell our clients that.
Well, a good bullish example. Remember the 2-bedroom house, Jason, in Pittsburgh that we put on the market 65 days ago, listed at 500. We dropped the price on Friday to 475. It's off the market.
Folks, I was telling,
and it's the record, and it's a 2-bedroom in Pittsburgh.
I was telling one of our team members, Alyssa, the other day, real estate is like football. It's a game of inches.
It is.
And you can be a percentage point away in price, or 2 or 3. It's a very small gap between no offers and multiple offers. I've got all the rhymes today.
Right. Well, I'll also say this. I think that it has to be a demonstrative price drop to get the market's attention. It can't just be a fairly small percentage. You have to get the market's attention and remarket.
I also want to point out one other statistic that is important. And nationwide, we're seeing that there is seemingly this attitude of a flight for the suburbs and a concern about...
It's good media.
And in some cases, that's true. There are a number of cities where people are flying to the burbs.
There's a lot of reasons to like some of the suburbs now. They're better than they used to be.
Well, I'm talking not because they're suburbs, because of COVID.
I get that part. I know.
So what I'm saying is Atlanta has not seen that.
No
Our
way.
in-town real estate is just as strong as it's been before. And anyone who's concerned out there, I know that's what a lot of people are asking, is in-town real estate not going to be sexy after COVID? I don't think so, folks.
No, we take
and I
these
think
cities,
nationally, ultimately, that sentiment will die as well.
But you think the suburbs of New York City are Short Hills and the Oranges and Newark even and Hoboken and all that. That's away. Same with Chicago. You go to whatever these cities are, Schaumburg and all those cities to the west. People can travel by train, and many, many, many of them do. That really is disruptive. But now that people don't have to travel by train to their offices anymore in downtown Chicago, how's that going to change some of these cities? I know our city's about to change in that way too, but we don't use public transportation at a great level.
Meanwhile, there's been some pretty big commercial leases signed, I've seen.
What'd you see?
I can't speak to one. I think there was specifically a very large amount of commercial space in New York that was booked in the midst of this.
It's a great time to be a tenant in negotiations. It's a great time to be a tenant.
It was
with cash.
Yes.
If you don't have cash, it's not a good time.
I wish you hadn't asked me for examples, because I had read a few of them over the past 2 months. Compass had been mentioning them here and there. I think, in short, it's very knee-jerk to draw conclusions about how our lives are going to totally turn over as a result of something. I believe that There is a moderate approach to this. Short-term memory will be a big thing. I don't believe everyone's going to work from home. I think people will work from home more.
Mm-hmm.
I think that companies do see the value of teams having in-person interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Our team has seen the benefits of all being together for the first time in months
Sure.
this week, and that does add camaraderie. It adds community. It adds communication at a higher level. I do think that in the residential side, one other observation, many people with kids that are at home see themselves as spending a day or two home per week virtually going forward. And they're booking those 4-bedroom houses maybe from their 3-bedroom or 4 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that need is.
Yeah.
Many people are moving and gaining an extra bedroom right now
Mm-hmm.
for that potential home office.
Yeah.
So we're seeing that too.
Yeah. And at today's rates, you should be exploring what you can do with your mortgage money, maybe with your capital that's already in your current home, and you can move into the home that's better for you, the neighborhood that's better for you, the school district that's better for you.
How does the sound of 2.9% interest
Yeah, no
ring to your ears?
Yeah, you're right.
No shiza.
I saw 3 and 3.1 in the past 24 hours on 2
It's volatile, but I've seen it in the high 2s here.
These are for low, like 5% and 10% conventional. So gosh, if you have a 700 plus credit score right now, go talk to your mortgage lender. If you want to do something, that's this opportunity historically has never ever presented itself to a real estate buyer.
LT, any more conclusions about the second quarter in Atlanta real estate? I think that was a pretty good.
Well, the other would be to remind people,
analysis.
Right, to remind people that the spring market is coming in the fall.
Yes, that's the main conclusion. I think we all
the next 3 months will lead to and people are going to get through their August. August is always a month. We have to see how August could be crazy for us. We don't know, but August has always been that sluggish month because people go on vacations and people go.
4th of July is usually sluggish.
Hell, school starts second week of August for many, many counties. So it starts to change how their dynamics, they try to get things done. So let's see how it runs because the next level is in the fall.
And folks, watch for schools to see what they do because that could affect people.
Indeed.
If people find out school will be open versus virtually, you could see a window open where folks are like, we're skedaddling to the next school district. There were a couple terminations. One in particular our team had right at the beginning of COVID where the person said, I'm not moving because I don't know if my daughter will actually get to attend this school this fall, and we're going to wait.
Wow.
Because I'd be at home virtually.
Yeah, they're going to move. August could be fast and furious, man.
I think a lot of what happens.
People need to list their properties now.
Well, it could be very beneficial to list the day they find out that schools will be open.
That's it. Yeah.
I don't know. Just a prediction that next indicator, county by county, could say a lot. So, second quarter really there was just so much jam. We could go into some really high level stats, but folks, I think you would agree, Lee, gives people kind of the general overview of a really crazy freaking second quarter.
Let's talk about one other thing that happened in the second quarter. Atlanta was on fire, had riots, protests, a lot of demonstrations that were mostly peaceful. But we had the blue flu, which they talk about when the police take off and decide they don't want to work. That happened. It's got some morale issues in the police department. There's a lot of distinct things happening with city and state leadership. I think our mayor has stepped up to be a very capable performer as a leader. Even the governor, with some kind of swashbuckling flaws, seems to have come forth as a guy who he's got swashbuckling, swagger. He seems to be got a command presence that seems to be very level-headed.
Well, aren't you a chameleon?
Sort of. Yeah, I am. But in the meantime, what's in between, I don't know how in touch he is with what's happening in the streets. But God bless us, I don't think we've had as much violence as some other cities have. And we certainly seem to have a fairly level-headed leadership at state, local, and county and everything else.
I agree. And I think it speaks to what we always were saying, even in the last year, our first year on due diligence, that Atlanta would be as resilient as any market.
Indeed.
Should a crisis of the economy or our culture or whatever come. And I would say that prediction has held up. We are one of the most resilient markets in this country comparatively. And folks, we're going to keep you informed as the third quarter comes about.
Yeah. Speaking one more Atlanta thing, we mentioned the Braves, but Coca-Cola is headquartered here.
All right.
Reminds me that one of the first phone calls I made during the social distancing week of the middle of March was to my friend Bill, who works at Coca-Cola. He's been there 20 years. He's a chief operator with Walmart. I said, so Bill, how are things this morning? He says, well, for the time being, they're okay. And he was right. And I think that's kind of where we were in March. And for the time being here in June, end of June, everything's okay.
We're all right.
Yeah.
Really you look great.
Thanks, brother. I'm gonna get a haircut. It's been a long time. Great story. I was on Greg's front porch, who's a seller. I helped his mom list a property this week for $650,000 in Pittsburgh, and this guy walks up and I see him. He's a tall man, and I looked at him and looked at his face. I said, "I know that guy." I said, "Hey, are you Bobby Scott?" And he said, "I know that voice." And he heard my voice, and it was Bobby Scott. He was one of my sergeants that was in my platoon, that guy who reported to me.
Oh, cool, yeah.
And really love that guy. He's amazing and just a totally cool Atlanta guy. And he lives right there in Pittsburgh, and we're friends forever now. We've talked 2 days in a row.
I always tell people this is the biggest little city. Or or is it the other way around?
And last time I'd seen him we just got back from the desert, and we just parted ways.
That's
pretty
crazy
cool
to run in after all that. How many years did that been?
29 years.
Wow.
30
cool,
almost.
Man. Yeah.
30 almost.
Well, we got to jump.
Yeah,
we've got a team outing
Yay.
to hang out with each other, socially distanced. Yeah. And again, I am Jason Wieloch. This is Lee Taylor, my colleague here. We are real estate experts at the Wieloch Group of Compass. Our team has over 40 years of combined experience in Metro Atlanta residential real estate. And we're here to help you and guide you whether you hire us or not.
That's so true. I mean, what we do,
because this is what we're doing. We're putting information out there.
It's free and informative.
And I'll always plug this. If you're in another city and happen to be listening, or your friends, your family, or even yourself, you're thinking of moving to another city, we have vetted and gotten to know some of the finest and coolest and smartest professionals in the real estate business. We've made it a very intentional part of our team. So if you're moving somewhere, call us, and we will not, unlike Zillow, who's going to give you to the guy that pays for the most space.
Right.
We're going to make sure you get with the best guy in that city, or girl, best realtor. So until next time, folks. That was our second quarter Atlanta real estate market update, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon, man.